Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just remind everyone before the meeting starts about our governance rules. My name's Jackie Wetherill and I'm the Chief Executive Officer. Council's governance rules, council meetings, making them a safe place for everyone. During the council meeting, members of the public cannot address the meeting outside the public question time, must not interject or act offensively, must remain seated, must switch your mobile phones to mute, must not operate any recording device, audio or visual, without obtaining consent from the Chief Executive Officer at least 3 days prior to the council meeting. And you can display placards or posters provided they're not offensive, do not obstruct entrances and exits to the chamber or impede any view or person. The Chair can direct any members of the public to stop interjecting or acting offensively. If that behaviour continues, the Chair can ask an authorised officer or a member of Victoria Police to remove members of the public from the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Wetherill. Item 1, meeting opening. Welcome to the 24th of March 2025 Ordinary Council meeting. Item 1.2, are there any apologies, Ms Wetherill?
Yes, Mr Mayor, we have an apology this evening from Councillor Alice Fung Lee.
Thank you very much, Ms Wetherill. Item 1.3, acknowledgement of traditional custodians of the land. Those who wish to stand for the acknowledgement to the country are welcome to do so. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Bunurong people, and pay respect to their elders past and present. We recognise and respect their continuing connections to climate, culture, country and waters. And we also pay respect and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their elders present here today in acknowledging their journey. Item 1.4, offering of prayer, reflection or affirmation. As part of Council's commitment to recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer, reflection or affirmation this evening will be offered by Ms Ursula Aruma, a member of the Greater Dandenong Interfaith, who Councillor Milkovich will read out this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, councillors, distinguished guests, respected and revered elders, this is the prayer message from Satya Sai Organisation of Australia and PNG, Papua New Guinea. You are all embodiments of divine love. Share it with everyone. Express divine love in kind words and acts of service filled with compassion. Om Sai Ram. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. We'll move on to item 1.5, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting of Council held on the 11th of March 2025. Ms
Councillor Milkovich.
Ms Wetherill?
Yes,
Mayor, I wish to object.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, we're intending to add a CEO explanatory note to the Council minutes. During consideration of item 5.2, notice of motion number 5 towards unity, a motion for inclusive, respectful and peaceful engagement in the Thomas Street naming issue, there was a procedural irregularity which saw a procedural motion that the matter now be moved, second and then carried, contrary to the provision of clause 4.9.3 of the governance rules. Council then voted on the notice of motion and the motion was defeated. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms Wetherill. Councillor Garrett?
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to correct the record that the item that the CEO has just read out is not factually correct. What is factually correct is that under the section 4.9.3 that the substantive motion was not dealt with and not closed. The failure to call for opposition, the failure to allow the mover, seconder and the opponent to speak, the failure to allow debate to happen meant that the procedural motion should have been rejected and the debate should have occurred, and therefore allowing the procedural motion is a non-compliance with our governance records. Therefore, the substantive motion has not been closed and remains open, and therefore can come back to the Council to be resolved at a further date.
Thank you, Ms Garrett. Councillor Garrett, do we have a mover for this item, councillors?
I'm happy to move.
Moved by Councillor Dunn. Do we have a seconder?
Second
by Councillor O'Reilly. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, the item is carried.
Mayor, can I get an understanding of what the resolution is regarding my objection?
Mr Tonta, do you want to explain the resolution we've just passed? She just made a statement. You know. So, Councillor Garrard, you made a statement. You wanted to make a statement. I then moved the item for a mover and seconder. We had a mover and seconder. I then asked for questions. There was no questions. I asked for opposition. There was no opposition. So the item 1.5, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, has now been moved with no opposition.
So, Mayor, just to clarify, you are completely ignoring the objection I put forward.
Well, Councillor Garrard, I'm not going to discuss and debate this with you. I've just had clarification from our governance officer. So thank you very much. I'll move on to the next item.
You are going to.
Can you please sit down, Councillor Garrard? You're interrupting the meeting now. Item 1.6, disclosures of interest. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I haven't received any disclosures of interest.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Item 2, Officers' Reports, Part 1, 2.1, Petitions and Joint Letters. 2.1.1, Petitions and Joint
Happy
Letters.
to move that, Mayor.
Moved by
Seconded.
Deputy Mayor Tan, second by Councillor Formosa. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, I declare the motion carried. Item 2.2, Statutory Planning Applications. 2.2.1, Planning Delegated Decisions issued February 2025. Moved by Councillor O'Reilly, second by Deputy Mayor Tan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, I declare the motion carried. Item 3, public question time. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And our first question this evening is from Dom Bakari of Keysborough, and he has submitted 3 questions.
Welcome, Dom.
G'day, Jim. Good evening, all. I'm going to first start off asking questions in particular to what's going on in our municipality. Many residents have reached out to me and echoing my long-term concerns that this municipality that we pay rates to have lost focus on the entire municipality. It's becoming reckless and it's concerning. We the ratepayers see no leadership within this municipality. This municipality have got some serious issues such as favourable decisions made to major council and government buildings that have created unwanted media attention, a community in Thomas Street continuing with conflict over a name. These serious issues need to be resolved and many others like that. And if this naming issue at Thomas Street continues, just call it Thomas Street. Why can't this council take guaranteed ownership over these matters and many more?
Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Bakari. We note your views about council leadership and direction. I think that the council is taking leadership and direction. Just reminding the public that the council make the strategic decisions for council, and a number of those items you've mentioned, council have made decisions on, and the staff and myself as CEO undertake the operational issues and implementation of those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Dom.
Look forward to seeing more. The new community hub on Chapel Road in Keysborough is near complete and looking great. Why is our council promoting the new building as the Keysborough South Community Hub? Why does our council keep making costly and incompetent errors in naming buildings and allowing developers, such as in Keysborough, to introduce different names to our suburb, such as South? I received my mail and it says Keysborough, and I am a resident in that area, just one street away from the Keysborough Community Hub. When will this council get things right and help us trust our rates and are managed correctly and in good, safe, trustworthy hands and not in dirty hands after the building is complete?
Ms Gillies.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks very much, Dom, for your question. Keysborough South Community Hub is the working title for the project, and actually at our last council meeting on the 11th of March, council approved for us to go to community consultation in terms of the naming of the hub. So that is, it will commence in April. I strongly encourage you, as part of that consultation process, to give you feedback, as with the rest of the community as well, so that we can come up with a name that actually is representative of the community and that the community feel really proud of.
Thanks, Ms.
Thank
Gillies.
you, Ms. Gillies.
With that one, Ms. Gillies, we can ask a question on that same subject. Does it have to go to consultation? Why just can't we keep it as a Keysborough community hub, just like Springvale? We shouldn't be wasting more money unnecessarily.
Ms. Gillies.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, I understand. We did actually go to consultation with Springvale. So we're following that in terms of process. And the reality is we know that there's also differing views in terms of what the name should be. So we put it out to community so that we can understand the different perspectives and ideally come up with something that is meaningful for the whole community.
And are you going to reach out to communities on that subject by mail or by social media? Because a lot of residents are elderly and don't have internet access. How do the council propose to reach out to residents?
I think Ms. Gillies has answered that question.
Yeah.
Do you want to move to your next question, please? Because we can't keep
I'll
on
come back to you
having
regarding the
yeah.
method. Okay. The last question is, I saw on the 7:30 program on Thursday night that that a council officer could not respond to the questions of why council meeting was closed to the public. This interview did not reflect well on the council and was very embarrassing to me as a ratepayer of this municipality. Is this because the council had no justification for closing the meeting to the public?
Ms. Sajari.
And to you, Mayor, and thank you, Don, for your question. As is always the case with such stories, the ABC aired a few moments from an hour-long interview. The decision to close the gallery during our last council meeting was based on all available information we had, including from police sources. This includes information that is not appropriate to share in the public domain or while active police investigations are underway.
Thank you, Ms. Sajari. Thank you for your questions, Dom.
Yep, that's it.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And our next question is from Yassin Hazara of Dandenong. Would you like to come up to the microphone, please?
Welcome, Yassin.
Good evening, everyone. I've got three questions. On 10th March 2025, one councillor unilaterally decided to exclude the public from question time and conduct the council meeting behind closed doors due to a TikTok video which involved a homeless man being bullied by Afghan teens and adults. I have following three questions. First, could that councillor explain the basis of this decision, why it was made without consulting other councillors, and how it was justified when that TikTok video didn't have, that TikTok video was not related to any council matters?
Do you want to just ask all your three questions, or do you want to answer the
through you, Mr Mayor. If you'd like to answer all three questions, ask all three questions and then I'll answer them.
Sure. Secondly, does the council acknowledge that some of its members are acting in bad faith, and what actions will other councillors take to address such conduct beyond remaining silent observers? A third question is, can that councillor confirm whether Dandenong is a safe place, given that they are now openly inviting people to the Dandenong night market, just a week after contemplating the cancellation of a council meeting and ultimately locking out the public from question time, citing safety concerns over that TikTok video?
Ms. Wetherill.
Thank you, and thank you, Yassim, for your question. The decision to close the gallery during our last council meeting was based on all the available information at the time, including from police sources. But I think I need to make it really clear, the council laws do not make decisions about closing a council meeting. It's actually the CEO, and in this instance it was the acting CEO. The decision was made by the acting CEO and occurred in response to workplace health and safety considerations and concerns. This includes information that it is not appropriate to share in the public domain or while active police investigations are underway. So some of the questions that you asked specifically referred to councillors, and that wasn't a decision for the councillors. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you, Ms. Wetherill.
Our next question this evening is from Susan Smith, who has a question about co-design, is her first question.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Hello, everybody. Found my glasses. That's why I went. I've got 3 questions. I'll do the short one like you just asked about the co-design first. I participated in the Dandenong Community Hub co-design workshop in February, and my question is, when is the next co-design session, please?
Mr. Mani Vasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for your participation on the co-design workshop, Susan. The next co-design session is scheduled for 6th and 8th of May. Participants will be provided with a revised design beforehand, so they have time to review and will be prepared for the meeting. Invitation and details will be made available in April. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mani Vasagasavam. Ms. Weatherall.
Ready for
Thank
the
you. And
next one?
Susan has another question now on state government plan to rezone parts of Dandenong Noble Park.
Here we go. The state government have announced that the parts of Dandenong, Noble Park and Springvale are going to be subject to greater heights and greater density. It was only 7 years ago that Greater Dandenong Council completed their own residential zones review that culminated in the C182 planning scheme amendment, which determined the density in those activity centres, including the density around railway stations. That was a process where Greater Dandenong Council engaged many hundreds of residents in a well-publicised consultation, which involved multiple Australia Post letters and face-to-face meetings. Anyone affected knew what was going on because Council did such a great job of informing residents. Similarly, the Council did significant consultation on the Springvale Structure Plan and Noble Park Structure Plan. It seems now that all the results of this hard work by Council and by residents may be washed away. And if similar consultations by the state government are any guide, Dandenong Noble Park and Springvale will be drastically rezoned under residents' noses. Question: what can Greater Dandenong Council tell residents about what the state government is planning, please?
Mr. Mani Vasagasavam.
I wouldn't mind if you read the second question and then I'll provide a full answer for that. Yeah.
Do you want to read out the second question as well, please?
Yeah, and I'll just carry on. In regard to the state government's planning for the parts of Dandenong, Noble Park and Springvale being subject to greater heights and greater density, what is Greater Dandenong Council going to do to make sure that that if a consultation happens on the plan, it will be genuine and well publicised?
Mr. Mani Vasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for your question, Susan. As part of the recent state government housing announcements, 50 new activity centres were identified across Melbourne. Of these 50 centres, 4 were from Greater Dandenong, being Dandenong, Springvale, Noble Park and Yarraman. Council understands that state government will be developing structure plans for these centres, along with the rezoning them to allow for increased densities. The government have also stated that they will be undertaking consultation with councils and the community for each of these activity centres. However, the exact nature of these structure plans and zones for these 4 centres and what impact they will have on existing planning document is unknown at this stage, as this extent to of consultation that will be undertaken. Council officers will be meeting with the state government in the next few months regarding these proposed activity centres and will be strongly advocating for a thorough and meaningful consultation to be undertaken for each of these centres. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mani Vasagasavam, and thank you very much, Susan. Ms. Weatherall.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Excuse me, Councillor Garrard, it's question time from public. Ms. Weatherall has the floor. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Now, can you please sit down? You'll have a time when it's question time. Thank you very much, Councillor Garrard. Ms. Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our next question is from Philip Lamaro of Dandenong. Is Philip here tonight? Doesn't appear to be. I will read out the question. Community advisory groups for council-owned corporations. The Local Government Community Satisfaction Survey 2023 advised that council should endeavour to improve its community consultation and engagement and invite residents to provide input into council decisions. With this clear feedback to council, I'm confused why council has not created community advisory groups to give advice to both council-owned corporations, South East Leisure and the Dandenong Market. These two organisations manage most of council's facilities and residents have no clear method to provide input into decision-making about these community facilities. Due to the clear feedback council received by this survey, will council consider creating community advisory groups to provide community opinions on the management of these council-owned corporations?
Ms Sajari.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for your question, Philip. While South East Leisure and Dandenong Market are council-owned, once formed, their entity structure have independent boards who are governed by the Corporation Act 2001. Under the Corporations Act, the Board of Directors are responsible for the overall governance and strategic direction of an organization. They oversee both performance and compliance in accordance with the organizational purpose and objective, and hence it is for them to determine how they go about fulfilling their duties, including around ensuring compliance with legislative obligations. That said, Council works closely with these entities and their operating performance, strategy and budgets are reviewed and approved by Council every year. The boards are skill-based and directors are appointed to both of these companies by Council. Council are also represented by nominated officers to each of the boards, comprising both a nominated councillor and a senior officer who are often consulted for council policy or position on matters at hand. If the need arose, Dandenong Market and South East Leisure can also seek advice through the nominated liaisons from any of Council's established advisory committees.
Thank you, Ms Sajari. Ms Weatherill.
Thank you. Our next question is from Pamela Naylor of Noble Park, who isn't here this evening. And her first question is concerning federal election advocacy. Council recently approved its federal election advocacy agenda. Have all currently known candidates in Bruce, Hotham and Isaacs been contacted to get their position on them?
Ms Sajari.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for your question, Pamela. Once Council endorsed the federal election advocacy priorities, the document was made publicly available and shared with known candidates. Also, Mayor and CEO have been meeting with candidates when possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sajari. Ms Weatherill.
Thank you. Pamela Naylor's next question is the Back Your Neighbour campaign. What is Council doing along with other members of the Back Your Neighbour campaign to challenge candidates in the federal electorates in their areas regarding their positions on the Back Your Neighbour advocacy asks?
Ms Sajari.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you again, Pamela, for a very good question. The Back Your Neighbour campaign encouraged all task force member councils, endorsing committee organisation and member of the public to reach out to their local federal members of parliaments and candidates to highlight the specific priority ask of the Back Your Neighbour campaign. Greater Dandenong City Council provides secretary support to the mayoral and councillor task force supporting people seeking asylum. Member council has been provided template letters to support securing a meeting engagement with their local MPs or candidates, an evidence-based campaign collateral that can be presented at any secured meeting. The Back Your Neighbour campaign website provides advocacy collateral that can be utilized by any member of the public, a QR code template email for individuals to write to the Minister of Immigration and their local federal members, and a Back Your Neighbour petition. This inclusive all-committee approach is strategic, and members of the public are strongly encouraged to utilize material provided on our website, the Back Your Neighbour website, to reach out to their local federal members or candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sajari. Ms Weatherill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our next question is from Kim Handley of Clyde. and it concerns request update on Mile Creek feasibility report. In November 2023, Melbourne Water responded to former Mayor Lana Formoso's public letter inquiring about Dandenong's waterways. In the response, Melbourne Water advised Council that they were interested in investigating a section of Mile Creek along the Ross Reserve in Noble Park to determine feasibility of returning it to its natural form. Dandenong Council's Manager of Transport and Civil Development advised in writing that a feasibility report would be made on this. As that was over a year ago, I'd like Council to please explain what this feasibility report has advised and what's the next stage of the project.
Mr Manivasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for your question, Kim. The project mentioned in your inquiry is called Reimagining Your Creek Program, which is a Melbourne Water's initiative aimed at enhancing urban waterways. Last year, Melbourne Water conducted an investigation into the potential naturalisation of a section of Mile Creek. Following this assessment, Melbourne Water determined that due to soil conditions, estimated cost and other influencing factors, this project will not be prioritised in the near future. Should you require further information, Council officers can provide the contact details of the Melbourne Water officer overseeing this program, along with the link to the official program web page in a follow-up email. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Manivasagasavam. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. We have another question from Kim Handley. It concerns the speed limit of Hammond Road in Dandenong. I've noticed that the speed limit of Hammond Road in Dandenong between Webster Street and Dandenong Bypass is 60 kilometres an hour. I do believe this road fits all the requirements to be reduced to a 50 kilometre hour zone. Can Council please advise if this road should be lowered to 50 kilometres an hour as per state law, and when will this be introduced?
Mr Manivasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor, Hammond Road plays an important function as a local collector road, collecting traffic from both Dandenong Bypass and Cheltenham Road and distributing it into the local network. It also provides direct access to many adjacent residential properties. The current 60 km per hour speed limit is considered appropriate for this dual function. However, with impeding changes to the road network associated with the Webster Street level crossing removal, this will provide an opportunity to reconsider its function, lane configuration and also speed limit once these works are nearing completion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Manivasagasavam. Ms Weatherall.
And Kim Handley's last question concerns requests for inclusion of Greater Dandenong Creeks in Waterways Protection Policy. Last month, the Planning of Waterways updated their planning for our waterways policy, placing protections on 17 creeks across Melbourne. They aim to have protections to build a better environment, improving the quality of life for society and nature. None of the creeks in Greater Dandenong were included in these 17 creeks. This means Dandenong Creek, Mile Creek and Umemmering Creeks do not deserve the same protections and improvements as the 17 creeks named in the policy. As a result, the residents of Greater Dandenong will not enjoy the same quality of life for society and nature as those residents in the areas of the 17 creeks named may have. Will the Mayor and Councillors please write to the Minister of Waterways and ask for creeks in Greater Dandenong to be included into this policy?
Mr Manivasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor, draft planning of our waterways proposes to add planning controls on properties near 17 waterways throughout Melbourne. This was exhibited by the Department of Transport and Planning during February and March. With this exhibition now having closed, Greater Dandenong does not appear to have been consulted during this period. However, Council officers will review the draft plan, and if it is considered appropriate, Council will make a submission to Department of Transport and Planning. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr Manivasagasavam. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. Our next question is from Philip Maloney of Noble Park and concerns the cost of installing parking signs. Recently, parking signs were put up at the Parkfield Reserve car park. What was the cost of installing these signs, material, installation, cost and planning costs?
Mr Manivasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for your question, Philip. The recently installed park signs in Parkfield Reserve car park cost approximately $1,000. Supply and install for all three signs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Manivasagasavam. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have another question from Philip Maloney, and it concerns parking enforcement at Parkfield Reserve car park. Recently, parking signs were put up at Parkfield Reserve car park. Question 1. With parking limits now enforced at Parkfield Reserve, how often is the car park being checked, and what's the cost of this checking, and how often is the car park full during these checks? His second question, how many fines have been handed out at Parkfield Reserve for parking that goes against the rules set out on the signs? Has the council been successful in collecting the fines, and what will the fine revenue be used for? Could I suggest it go to charities supporting homelessness in the Noble Park area?
Ms Gillies.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks very much, Philip, for your question. As with any changes to restrictions in the municipality, we do have a 28-day education period for the community to get used to what those changed restrictions are. Given these signs were erected at the beginning of March, enforcement will commence in the coming weeks. So as it stands, we haven't actually been undertaking enforcement activity. It's more been focused on education. In terms of the revenue generated through parking and other local laws fines, that revenue goes directly towards funding all of council's programs, services, as well as our amenities. And those services include Dandenong Zero, which is a program that Councillor, in partnership with a number of agencies, focused directly on supporting rough sleepers in our community to obtain access to the services that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And our next question is from Zabi Reze of Narre Warren, who would like to come up and ask the question himself.
Welcome, Zabi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Dandenong Council has recognised the genocide of the Hazara people. Can the Council confirm whether the Hazara community has the right to choose and celebrate its identity? If so, why is the Council disregarding the wishes of the Hazara people? Thank you.
Ms Hajari.
To you, Mayor, and thank you for your question, Sabi. City of Greater Dandenong is one of the most multicultural communities in Australia, and as the City of Greater Dandenong, we are very proud of our community, and everyone should be really able and have the right to celebrate their culture and identity.
Thank you, Ms Hajari. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our next question is from Mohammed Akram Yusofi of Dandenong, who'd like to come up and ask a couple of questions. Would you like to read out both your questions, please, Mohammed?
Welcome, Mohammed.
Thank you. Good evening. My question is, I refer to the Council's meeting on 11th of March 2025 and the motion presented to cease the use of the marketing name Afghan Bazaar until the matter is settled. Can the Council explain why was the procedural motion accepted by the Chair when Rule 4.9.3 states that such a motion may not be put until the mover, the seconder, and the first opposition speaker have spoken? According to Rule number 4.9.3, the procedural motion should not have been put to vote since the seconder did not speak, there was no opposition speaker, and the councillor who moved the motion did not oppose it. Can the council clarify how this was not an intentional misuse or improper application of the governance rule? Thank you.
Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. So in regards to question 1, the matter was addressed through a CEO explanatory note in the minutes of the meeting, and that was approved by Council earlier in tonight's meeting when the minutes were adopted. And question 2, it was not a misuse or improper application, in my view.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall.
Our next question is from Philip Lamaro, and it concerns the Afghan Bazaar renaming. When the Afghan Bazaar was in development, many First Nations people contacted Council and the Mayor to advise they did not feel comfortable that the Council proposed naming a section of land after a country that had recently been part of a genocide, similar to the First Nations people here in Australia. Council advised then that the word Afghan was to represent the people and not the country. However, Council recently advised the Afghan is indeed representing the country and not the people. Question 1, can Council please explain why, when Council was advised that the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people did not want their land named after a country guilty of genocide, it ignored their requests? And question 2, now that Council has admitted this, will Council be making a public apology for giving incorrect information to the First Nations people and respect their views and change the name of the Afghan Bazaar?
Ms Sajari.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for your question, Flake. We have to take your question on notice to really seek further information on the process undertaken about more than a decade ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sajari. Ms Wetherill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our next question is from Liaquat Ali of Lynbrook, who would like to come up and ask a question himself concerning Afghan Bazaar.
Welcome, Liaquat.
Thank you, Jim. On March 11, all the Labour councillors voted against the motion to cease the use of marketing name Afghan Bazaar. Can the Labour councillor clarify whether they are acting independently or prioritizing party affiliation over the community's will? Given that majority of the residents have clearly expressed their opposition to the imposed name.
Ms Sajari.
To you, Mayor. Thank you for your question, Liaquat. This actually is a matter for individual councillor to respond. As officer, we cannot respond on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sajari. Thank you, Liaquat. Ms Wetherill.
Thank you. And our next question is from Alvalsavi Zaki of Narre Warren, who would like to come up and ask 3 questions.
Welcome, Abdul Fazi.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. On 24th of February, in a general response to our questions, the Council noted that it is seeking funding to start a consultation and to bridge divisions and enhance links to the broader Australian community by engaging youth, women, community leaders and wider public participation in its consultation process. Can the Council answer the following 3 questions? Firstly, what specific divisions is the Council referring to, and on what basis has it determined that such divisions exist? Does the Council believe that the Hazara community is not already linked to the broader Australian community? If so, what evidence supports this view? Secondly, how does the Council reconcile this statement with its commitment to social cohesion and recognition of the Hazara community's contributions to the city of Greater Dandenong and Australia more broadly? Thirdly, Clause 7 of the naming rules requires consultation with the immediate community, which includes people who live and work within Thomas Street, owners of properties or businesses, and in particular residents, ratepayers, and businesses within the immediate area directly affected by the proposal. Please confirm why the Council has not included these stakeholders and is running behind youth, community leaders and wider public instead. Thank you.
Ms Sajari.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for your question, Abul Faz. The name attached to this Thomas Street precinct has been a contested topic. Through social media and the petition, we saw tens of thousands of people engage on the issue. Unfortunately, not everyone expressed their views respectfully, and there were threats of violence. This reflects that it was a divisive topic and a topic that exposed divisions. We believe that the Thomas Street precinct is a wonderful example of how Hazara people and other people from Afghanistan have settled and engaged with our wider Australian community. Thomas Street is a place where food and culture has been generously shared and enjoyed with wider community. However, most Australians would probably expect that the term Afghan represents all people from Afghanistan. This is probably not a nuance's understanding of the history of the different people of Afghanistan and what brought them to Australia at different times. There remains an opportunity to build on our social cohesion and community resilience, to deepen connection and strengthen the trust between our community. Regarding your third question of the committee consultation, as we stated in the previous meetings, Council has not yet started any consultation with any groups of the committee yet.
Thank you, Ms. Hajari. Ms. Wetherill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And our next question is from Namatullah Kadri of Narre Warren South, who would like to come up and ask 2 questions. No? No. Okay, I will read the question. Community consultation for renaming of the Afghan Bazaar. On February 24th and the 11th of March, the Council stated that it was working with state and federal governments to secure funding for a series of community discussions regarding the renaming of Afghan Bazaar. Question 1. Can the Council confirm the date of this funding request, specify the state and federal departments contacted and advise whether response has been received? And question 2. Why is the Council proceeding with a consultation process before determining whether the name Afghan Bazaar complies with the relevant principles outlined in the naming rules for places in Victoria? This is a clear breach of the law.
Ms. Hajari.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you for your question, Nematullah. Council is still in ongoing conversation with the state and federal government departments to seek their support. Regarding the second question, as I mentioned in the previous question, we haven't started, Council hasn't started any consultation with any groups of the community yet.
Thank you, Ms. Hajari. Ms. Wetherill.
That completes all our questions for this evening.
Mayor, point of order.
There can't be a point of order at question time, Councillor Garrett. What's your point of order?
My point of order is that the CEO failed to respond to a very important question regarding the safety of Dandenong. We are about to have the Ramadan midnight market.
Ms. Garrett,
last week
Councillor Garrett, can you please sit down? Can you please sit down, Councillor Garrett? Thank you. All questions were appropriately answered. And can you please stop interrupting? You'll have an opportunity at question time, like every other councillor. Thank you, Councillor Garrard. And Ms. Wetherill, thank you for tabling the questions taking on notice at the last council meeting, which I've got here. Thank you very much. Item 4, Officers' Reports, Part 2, 4.1, Policy and Strategy, 4.1.1, Green Wedge Management Plan, 5-year review of the action plan. Moved by Councillor Garrard.
No, sorry, I have a question. Ignore me. I'm not moving.
Okay. Do I have a mover, councillors? Moved by Councillor O'Reilly. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second that.
Second by Deputy Mayor Tan. Are there any questions, Councillor Garrard?
Thank you, Mayor. My question is point 2 of the officer's report states continues to implement the Green Wedge Management Plan 2015-2035 in accordance with the recommendations included in this report in attachment 1. What does that actually mean? One of the so-called recommendations within the report relates to the council developing a land care group, when the council has never developed a land care group and has no capacity to develop a land care group. So my question is, what is the meaning of the second point in this recommendation?
Mr. Mani Vasigasavan.
Through you, Mayor, I'm happy to clarify that one, which is continue to implement the same plan, so there is no other recommendation or changes to the plan. As you know, this plan is adopted in 2015. This is the second review, and this is purely a progress report. The intention is to implement the plan as it is. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mani Vasigasavan. Any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? Opposition by Councillor Garrett. Councillor O'Reilly as the first mover.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I won't go over what is in the report. All the detail is there. Be happy to respond to any objections in my right of reply. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, the whole report's in here. So the update was last 2020 update. So this time is a review for 2025. So I just want to hear from the objector as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tan. In opposition, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. I rise to oppose this motion, ostensibly due to the lack of community consultation. The Green Wedge Management Plan has not and does not propose any consultation with public or stakeholders. This oversight is critical as it fails to address the vital concerns such as urban encroachment, fragmentation of ecosystems, underfunding of proper management and the gradual loss of biodiversity. Additionally, this plan is intended to last until 2035, yet it does not mention significant impacts of climate change. By the end of this plan, global warming is projected to be 2 degrees Celsius, and which does not only exacerbate the pressures on the Green Wedge, leading to more frequent flooding, droughts and other environmental degradation, and yet there is no mention of this in this motion. Without proper consultation and with a clear focus, without a clear focus on climate resilience, we are failing to address the urgent challenges, and I urge that we abandon this item and send it out for public consultation.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Are there any further speakers, councillors? If there's no further speakers, Councillor O'Reilly, right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Just got a question, just if we can clarify with the relevant director the consultation included as part of this process.
Mr. Manivasagasavam.
Through you, Mayor, this is a progress report on when this adopted in 2015. It's required for us to report every 5 years. So what we are providing here is a 5-year progress report. This is the second time. The first one was done in 2020. That's a first one. The second one is 2025. So we are halfway through. Full review of this document, and the consultation will happen in 2035 when this document is ready to review.
Thank you, Mr. Manivasagasavam. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so Councillor Garrard, my interpretation of Councillor Garrard's main objections were around consultation, and this plan has definitely gone through extensive consultation before inception. As far as if Councillor Garrard wanted something specifically, then there was the opportunity to propose an alternate or some other action from Council to address those particular objections. But as has been said, this is a progress report, and I've never heard of Council consulting on a progress report on a plan that has already been consulted with. We've already heard from one resident tonight during public questions that Council shouldn't waste money over consulting, and I agree, Mayor. So in the terms of all that, the plan has been consulted, it is being implemented, it has strong objectives, and I endorse this report to the Council chamber. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Yim, Councillor Formoso, Deputy Mayor Tan, Councillor Meady, Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung, Councillor Milkovich and Councillor Dann. All those against... you don't get a right of reply. You're in opposition, Councillor Garrard. Under council procedures, the mover and seconder speak, the opposition speak, and the right of reply is by the person who's moved. Councillor Garrard, you had your opportunity. You did speak as opposition. You don't get a reply under opposition. I did ask for other speakers. Councillor Garrard, please. I did ask for other people to speak. So all those in opposition, please raise your hand. Councillor Garrard. We have 8 councillors in favour, 1 councillor in opposition and 1 councillor abstained with no vote, Councillor Doe. Thank you very much. The recommendation is passed. We'll move on to the next item. Item 4.1.2, Councillor Interstate and Overseas Travel Policy.
Mayor,
Councillor O'Reilly.
Councillor O'Reilly, Mayor, I would like to move to defer this item to a subsequent meeting, and happy to explain the reasons for that, Mayor.
Okay, do you want to explain your reasons,
Yeah,
Councillor?
certainly. Thank you, Mayor. This policy is coming from, I believe, an initiative of Councillor Formoso, which I think was a good initiative. The reason to defer is not due to the substantive thrust of the policy, but just a few clarifications that I believe are still outstanding. I have one clarification that I'm taking up with Manager of Governance, and speaking with other councillors, they also just wanted a bit of clarification and perhaps additional time, given that we've got quite a busy agenda. I've been under the pump. I've gone through this policy once or twice, but I would ask Council for additional time just to make sure that it's 100% understood before Council approves it. So it's for those reasons, Mayor, that I ask support to defer this policy, which will probably just be like the next meeting or something.
That's what I was going to ask, Councillor. So at the next Council meeting.
Happy to change the motion to be specifically to the next council meeting, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Riley. As a mover to defer the item, second by Councillor Trung. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, Councillor Formoso.
Thanks, Mayor. Just wondering, Councillor O'Reilly, why you didn't bring this to our attention a little bit earlier. I see that we've had exchanges with emails throughout the week. This has actually been a motion that we have discussed since April of last year, and my understanding is that this policy is run-of-the-mill, pretty much what other councils are doing across the sector, and I think it's probably prudent of us to do that sooner rather than later. So I would like to know, a little bit more as to why you'd want to defer that even further.
Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Mayor, and certainly happy to respond to Councillor Formoso's query, who I know has a strong interest in this item and in this policy. To be specific, I did email through a number of different issues that I had. Spoke with the Manager of Governance today on the phone, and there's just one outstanding. I think, for full disclosure, I think the only one outstanding is that there was something where if there was an incidental expense that it requires pre-approval, which both myself and the Manager of Governance agreed sort of doesn't work, because you can't sort of pre-approve sort of an emergency or something that you weren't expecting. So it's certainly, as I've said, certainly not against the policy in any way near its entirety or mostly. It's just a little bit of tidying up of facts and understanding here and there. So I hope
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition to the deferment? If there's no opposition, the deferred item is carried to the next council meeting. Item 4.2, Other, 4.2.1, Advocacy Priorities for the year 2025-2026. Do we have a mover, councillors? Moved by Deputy Mayor Tan.
Move. Thanks. Happy to second that.
By Councillor Formoso. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? If there is no opposition, I declare the motion carried. 4.2.2. Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, please.
Just on behalf of everyone, I just want to thank you, Margin, for your hard work on this. It is really great to see, we've got a full document of advocacy now, and we've got the federal elections coming up, so it's great to approach our MP as well to pursue our document. Thank you for that. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Tan. Move on to the next item, 4.2.2, Burbank High Density Apartment Lots, variation to Section 173 agreements. Moved by Councillor Garrard.
Happy to second, Mayor.
Second by Councillor Dann. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition?
Councillor Milkovich.
Councillor Milkovich in opposition. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. I wholeheartedly support this motion because, in particular, the development of the public housing by Launch Housing is going to make an important contribution to addressing the very big issue of homelessness in the city of Greater Dandenong. In relation to the other option that Burbank are seeking to extend, they have a proposal to commence development of that lot, and therefore calling in this option would be of no benefit because the council would have to purchase the land at market price and then seek another builder. We have two proposals here. All they are asking for is an extension of time, and the Launch Housing development in particular is an extremely important development in the city of Greater Dandenong.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Dann.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I wholeheartedly agree with the statement that Councillor Garrard has just made, and some additional comments that I would just like to add on to that as well. And it's to remind everyone that our community does have the highest rate of homelessness in metropolitan Melbourne outside the CBD. That's the reality of the situation that we face. There's roughly 55,000 people currently on the housing register, desperately waiting for a home. Housing and shelter, in my view, is one of the most important factors in providing security for individuals, for families, and for the community. And, you know, we can't talk about safety if we don't provide for those who are doing it most tough with a roof over their heads. I understand there are some objections to this, and I think they're very legitimate. I think those concerns are very valid. However, when balancing it up, on balance, I believe that this project is absolutely essential. And by supporting this extension, we ensure that individuals and families have access to safe housing options close to their communities and close to their networks here in Dandenong. The proximity is absolutely vital, and it means that residents can stay connected to their friends, their families, and other essential services which are widely available here in Greater Dandenong, and continuing to foster that sense of community and belonging as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dann. In opposition, Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. My reason for my opposition are very, very practical, is that in the sense that these particular lots were sold through Places Victoria, back then Development Victoria, in the ownership of council, to Burbank in 2015. So the Burbank as an enterprise had a full 10 years to actually do something and redevelop this land. The fact that if they were so concerned about social housing and providing any kind of accommodation to people in need, well, they should have done it about 10 years ago when the market was in a lot better position, construction costs were a lot lower, and there was demand. My concerns regarding this development is in regards to actually, first and foremost, a lack of parking provided for a housing that was proposed on site, and I'm sure that you know all too well as the ward councillor that struggles in Metro Village of the residents that currently live there is just beyond belief. These people have got nowhere to park. To add cherry to the cake, the council, and I've seen the letter with my own eyes, which I've got right here to take a photo of, is that the council is now proposing the whole of Metro 3175 estate reduction of all-day parking to 2-hour parking. And I know you drive through Allen Street down to Dandenong South and back and forth over the Stockman's Bridge. If that is to happen now, I don't know where these people are going to park. To have a 50, 60, 70 car space reduction in regards to the development is, to me, unacceptable. And I think I've stated that in one of the previous meetings in regards to an enterprise on Thomas Street. Any kind of reduction in parking is absolutely ludicrous, in my opinion, because regardless of the assumption that we will have people using public transport, cycling to work and so on and so forth, the Metro Village is the living proof that that just doesn't happen. People are parking anywhere. They're on the grass, they're on the footpath, they're on the nature strips. The gutters are destroyed throughout, and it is constantly gridlocked. I don't know any time of the day that I've gone there through my line of work that I have not seen streets completely gridlocked and blocked with cars, and I'm sure you would probably testify to that. My second objection in regards to this, or second concern really in regards to this, is that people, residents of Dandenong, have said loud and clear that we don't want high rises. They've said it on multiple occasions, and on top of that, people don't really want to create a social housing ghetto in one particular pocket of Dandenong. It needs to be well thought out. Like I said, Burbank, with all their concern, now all of a sudden they've sort of the penny drop when the contract is about to expire, or 173 agreement is going to be drawn or can be called upon. They had 10 years, full 10 years, if they really wanted to do some good in the community. So obviously that wasn't on the forefront of their development. So I think the council should really have a good hard look at this. Like I said, my opposition is for legal, legitimate reasons and legitimate concerns regarding the parking, regarding the high rises in Dandenong, and regarding the access to the actual apartments provided for these residents. Like I said, so for those reasons, I will be opposing this notice of motion. Thank you. Or this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Milkovich. Is there any further speakers?
Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Tang.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to speak for this motion. I mean, it is a great initiative for Launching House. It'll be 89 dwellings, plus it's for especially old people who actually live with disability, who live hard in disability. It's hard to find facility, plus also for women and children who are facing with family violence. If you read the report, it's stated here that 56 parking space that will be allocated to household with vehicles, and the other 33 tenancy that provided without vehicle. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tan. Are there any further speakers, councillors? There's no further speakers. Right to reply, Councillor Garrod.
Thank you, Mayor. The issue of parking is resolved on point 6, where it says that it is widely understood that social housing requires less parking. In addition, this is directly across the road from the railway station and has a bus service directly out the front of this proposed development. In addition, this is a 95% build. Launch Housing will be doing 95% of this build. We know that it's shovel-ready. We know that it's going to happen. And so whilst the past decade where no development has happened is lamentable, the point is we have a development in front of us and we know that it's going to go ahead. And it is unconscionable, really, that with the highest level of homelessness in the city of Greater Dandenong, that you would deprive people with disabilities, older people with disabilities, the right and the dignity of a home. Not only that, it's a social enterprise. So not just a home, but a job as well. And this is an extraordinary opportunity. And I know that Launch Housing have fought very hard for the funding of this, and this has been in development for many years. Not only that, this is a beautiful building. This is an architecturally designed, fit-for-purpose building that will accommodate the needs of older persons who, for whatever reason, throughout their lives have not been able to purchase a house. And many of them have been working before superannuation was developed, and therefore have ended up at the end of their lives without the accumulated wealth to purchase a house. In addition, they do have special needs, and this is purpose-built. Not only that, they will have wraparound services. So Launch Housing will ensure that there are wraparound services to ensure that these residents are well cared for and there are no concerns around ghettos or around social disruption. This is the gold standard of social housing in a housing crisis in a city with the highest level of homelessness. To push back on this, really, do not complain when you are, as you have previously, Councillor Milkovich, people wandering around the streets and begging for money, when you have the opportunity today to give them the dignity of a home, and this is only going to be beneficial to the city of Greater Dandenong.
Thank you, Councillor Garrod. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Doe, Councillor Garrod, Councillor Yim, Councillor Famosok, Deputy Mayor Tan, Councillor Mehmeti, Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung and Councillor Dunn. All those against, Councillor Milkovich. The item is carried 9-1. Councillors, we'll move on to the next item, 4.2.3, the Australian Local Government Association 2025 National General Assembly, Canberra, ACT, moved by Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. like to move with a minor amendment.
Do you want to?
Yeah, sure, I can
Amendment,
explain. Can explain the amendment. It was circulated to councillors earlier today. It's just a minor change on point 3, and the point 3 now becomes receives a post-attendance report from participants detailing key learnings, outcomes and recommendations from the 2025 Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly. Mayor, that is the amendment. The reason for the amendment is that it makes sure that the report includes the CEO or the CEO's delegate who will also be attending the conference. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor O'Reilly, with an amendment. Do we have a seconder, councillors?
Happy to second it.
Deputy Mayor Tan. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Formosa.
Yes, once again, Councillor O'Reilly, I didn't receive that amendment. That would have been good to receive beforehand. I'd like to speak to this very briefly. I want it to be put on record that I have actually suggested that approving all of the councillors to attend. Sorry?
Question.
Yeah, so my question is, can I please ask Councillor O'Reilly to forward that amendment to me, please?
He's happy to forward that to you.
If that's possible. Thank you.
Is there any further questions, councillors? Or do you want to read that amendment?
Just myself included, please. Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly.
Councillor O'Reilly, everybody hasn't seen your email, so they're asking to see it. To councillors at the moment, I've moved by Councillor O'Reilly with an amendment, second by Councillor Tan. Are there any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? Has everybody read the amendment before I call on the opposition? Any opposition, councillors? No. If there's no opposition, I declare the item carried.
Sorry, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Formosa.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to mention that during our conversations over the past few weeks, as we have been talking about the Local Government National Assembly being held in Canberra each year, I did flag that allowing 11 councillors to attend at the cost of, I don't know, about $4,000 per councillor was a bit ridiculous. I did suggest that we have a minimum of, say, 4 councillors, and if there was more, then we go into some sort of ballot system. I really think that this isn't good governance on our behalf. I will be abstaining from this motion and want it to be known on record that I have given another suggestion in relation to Canberra and our travel in relation to this. I really think, I don't know of any other council that has so many councillors in attendance. I think last year we had 9 out of the 11 go to Canberra. I absolutely agree that some of the new councillors probably should go, but each councillor going every single year is a bit ridiculous, especially how...
Point of order, Mayor.
I should just make a comment. That,
I understand that. Yeah, I just wanted to explain the point of order. And look, that's fine to make comment, but it is...
Well, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, but entering into debate, and if a point is raised, then it should also have the opportunity to be responded to. Unfortunately, if Councillor Formosa puts these points forward as a comment and the motion is passed without opposition, then Councillor Formosa's comments cannot be responded to with a counter view. So I'm certainly happy for Councillor Formosa to oppose the motion, and we can then debate the points that Councillor Formosa is raising.
Thank you, Councillor.
I don't believe that was a
Councillor Formosa, if I can just make it clear, the motion with an amendment was moved. It was seconded. I asked for questions, and there was no opposition. So the item is now carried.
Sure.
So you couldn't have you can't abstain from this motion because it was carried unanimously. Your comments. Just keep them short and brief. I'm sure you'll have another opportunity at another time.
Sure.
Because my understanding is there will be another item coming if not this year, but next year. But we note your comments, and just refrain to those comments, because now we've passed the motion, and
Sure.
the person who moves it doesn't have an opportunity to respond. So I'm giving you that opportunity just to speak briefly,
Thanks.
since there was no opposition in that item.
Yep, I didn't see the point in opposing, Mayor, because it's clear that most councillors want to attend Canberra every single year. So just making a statement, there was no point in opposing it. I wouldn't have had any support. I just wanted to make that statement that I did suggest that we just have 4 councillors going every year. My fellow colleagues didn't agree with that, so that's all I wanted to say on that.
Councillor.
Thank you.
Foremost, I've just been advised by governance, you can, even though it was carried unanimous, you can put, if you ask, for in the minutes to be as you are opposition to it.
That's what I was asking. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we'll note that as well.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Formoso. Councillors, we'll move on to the next item, 4.2.4, Springvale Reserve Community Function Room. Moved by Councillor Riley.
Happy to move.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, councillors?
Happy to second it.
Second by Deputy Mayor Tan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? Opposition, Councillor Doe. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this motion comes forward after Council signalled its intention to allow the club to have exclusive use of the community function room or function room. Last year, as part of due diligence, Council did consult with potential users, existing users, to understand the impact of prioritising the club as the main tenant of the community function room during the winter season or the football season. That Mayor, is clear on the page in the agenda that there is particular impact, but balancing out the pros and cons, I think the officer's recommendation strikes a balance that says that this council will commit to the club having exclusive use of the room, particularly, just as a side note, Mayor, that due to lake building works, the club doesn't, with the toilets, the club doesn't really have proper access or couldn't properly use their existing social space as it is. So it's certainly essential that this year that Council endorses the officer's recommendation, and you'll note in the officer's recommendation that there is potentially options to discuss some changes in future that might rebalance things differently, Mayor. But I think overall, one of our largest clubs in the municipality just brought on a large number of netball teams supporting women's sport, and while it acknowledged that there is impacts on balance, I think that the officer's recommendation is a good way forward, but happy to hear opposing points. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. As per officer recommendation, I also agree with option 4, which is the club also have access to the current arrangement and with additional storage and ongoing investment as per reserve master plan. So there's no changes at the moment. They still can use the function room from when they hide from winter season. They only use the room every Tuesday and Thursday, and then the second week of Saturday. But there's additional room for them for the change room as well. So I just want to hear from the opposition what they're going to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tan. In opposition, Councillor Doe.
Thank you. So I understand that Council signified its intention to give exclusive access to the club last year in the last term. Earlier tonight, Councillor O'Reilly mentioned that we do overly consult, and I do want to state that the office recommendation was actually based on Council endorsing an option that was actually not a recommended officer option out of the 4 options that were provided. So when we talk about the potential or the opportunity to change this in the future, if we didn't even consider the officer's original recommendation, that actually, in my opinion, did provide a decent compromise between the sports and the community groups. I do apologise if I don't have full faith in that happening in good faith. I'd also like to note that out of that survey, 42.6% of the respondents to that survey who were associated with that club did not live in with the municipality, and 77% of the residents that were not associated with the club, I believe that was 77%, were not actually in favour in having that exclusive access. We did receive funding from state and federal government in 2009 to redevelop the facility into a multi-purpose community facility, from my understanding, and that was actually a significant factor in us receiving those funds. In the last 2 years, Council has invested $3.7 million into the infrastructure improvements, most of which has benefited the sporting clubs, despite the fact that that initial funding in 2009 was to ensure that the facility would be a multi-purpose facility. So if the club rooms were deemed inefficient from my understanding from 4 years ago, why did the ward councillor not consider it as a priority in the Springvale Master Plan? And I'd also like to point out that in the winter season, the club only constituted 35% of those bookings. So we're saying that that remaining 65% of community groups, religious gatherings, private events, including birthdays, engagements, learning and training, that they don't matter. That is what I'm interpreting it. We're saying that instead of both, the sports and the community groups being considered equal, we're saying that sports groups are more important than actually having a community. And we're saying that these people do not matter. I'd also like to note that financial impact, so the lease for 6 months of that winter season is at $4,350, which is at a significant discount, and I do appreciate that we do want our community facilities to be accessible to sports, because you are correct, it is important to encourage activity. But I would like to note that we do receive, because of the lack of exclusive access, we do lose out on an estimate of $15,000 in revenue. So I would really like to mention that I'm actually quite disappointed in the fact that this did go ahead in the first place, and the fact that this exclusive access does limit other groups' opportunities to provide accessible spaces to the community. And just a reminder that Springvale's population is actually forecasted to grow 17% from now until 2038. And so while there are other alternatives in the ward, so it's Springvale City Hall and the supper room, they're substantially more expensive and bookings are already at capacity. So there is really no alternative for anyone living in that municipality. So if we want accessible community spaces that are safe and accessible in terms of being close to public transport, being affordable, we really need to...
Councillor Doe, unless somebody wants to move an extension. Did you need any more time if somebody wanted...
She's only at 3.5 minutes.
Happy to move that, Mayor.
Move for 2 minutes extension. Second 2 minute extension. Any opposition? No. Councillor Doe, you have another 2 minutes if you require them. You have 2 more minutes if you require
2 more minutes. Oh, well...
If you require it.
Okay, thank you. And I was really finishing up my point anyways, that we just, again, I grew up in, this community all my life, and I completely appreciate the opportunities that were available to me, the safe community spaces, the fact that it is actually a very affordable facility, and really one of the only facilities that we have in that ward that is, affordable, that has multiple functions. You can book a meeting room separately, you can book the kitchen separately. There are no limits in terms of having minimum hours, and I would just appreciate a response to justify why we think that this is okay.
Thank you, Councillor Doe. Is there any further speakers, councillors? Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak against the motion also. I wonder why we went out to public consultation if there was no if this was a fait accompli, if this decision was made, why did we get 292 people to write submissions, 8, I believe, significant organisations? Why did we do that when there was no possibility of a shift in the position? We know we're losing money. We know there's no equivalent cultural centre in that area. We know that it is 65% of that time is used by a variety of groups that have no alternative. Why are we going out and asking people what they want when we have no intention of giving it to them? The first 3 points are completely contradicted by points 4 and 5, where we go out and ask people what they want. However, regardless, we are providing exclusive use. I don't understand the point of this. I don't understand why we are locking the community out of a facility they have paid for, and it belongs to the City of Greater Dandenong. And I understand just the problem is just packing up on a Saturday. So because of the burden of packing up, that all of these groups are excluded from the only accessible community space, and I don't think it's acceptable.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Is there any further speakers, councillors? If there's no further speakers, a right of reply, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to respond to a couple of things. Well, Councillor Garrard's saying that we shouldn't have consulted people that were potentially impacted, and it's a fait accompli. Well, in that case, why am I here? Or why are we here? We're not going to make a decision on it right now. We're going to make a decision on it right now. It's not a fait accompli. Every councillor can vote how they want. The consultative report was for non-club users. So, look, most of the points in opposition are pretty much correct in that you either this council decides either to limit community groups who are booking the function room on an ad hoc basis, and despite what the opposing councillors said, do have other options, and some of those options may not be council facilities. There is other options. Perhaps a Springvale function room has been a good option for some, but what it boils down to is, on balance, is this council going to allow this club, which has grown, to maintain its size and potentially continue to grow, or does this council want to stymie it by putting additional burden by not giving it exclusive access? So I'm absolutely saying that there's going to be someone lose either way. So let's be upfront and honest. But given that this is one of the largest and most successful clubs in the municipality, this council should not be saying to clubs, "Oh, don't grow, don't get any bigger, because then we won't support you." Right? This council should be saying to clubs, grow, gain membership, gain community participation, promote sport and all the benefits of sport, and as a council we will support you. So what I'm saying to councillors is that, on balance, when you take both sides into consideration, the club that is playing right at Springvale Reserve should be the main tenant of the function room. And if it is not, then it will be extremely challenging for them now and in the future. So I think the officer's recommendation is quite balanced in that it's saying that they can't, due to building works, they currently don't have any social space at all, is my understanding, realistically. and that for this year they do have exclusive
30
use,
seconds.
and we can discuss it further going forward. So I think certainly acknowledge the points in opposition, but on balance, looking at everything fairly and objectively, I would ask Council Laws to support the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. All councillors in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Formoso, Deputy Mayor Tan, Councillor Mehmeti, Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung, Councillor Milkovich, Councillor Tan. All those against, Councillor Doe, Councillor Garrett and Councillor Yim. The motion is carried 7-3. Move on to the next item, councillors. 4.2.5, response to notice of motion number 1, addressing cleanliness and odour issues in Springvale Activity Centre. Moved by Councillor O'Reilly.
Happy to second.
Second by Councillor Dan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? There is no opposition. The motion is carried. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, what a topic. Addressing cleanliness and odour issues in Springvale Activity Centre. Mayor, I commend the officers for their well-researched report. They've had to draw on numerous sources to get to some of the issues that are impacting cleanliness in Springvale Activity Centre. And I think the report is a good first step in identifying those challenges and potentially how we can work on them in the future. But it's not going to happen overnight, but hopefully it will happen, Mayor. As the report describes, many of the initiatives require further resource, money from this council that I'll certainly be seeking in future. And I hope I get other councillors' support on that. But I think that the report has laid out a lot of the challenges. I think even through going through this process, sort of fine-tunes officers as to some of the issues and potentially can improve some things with little extra resource. But just in closing, I thank the officers for their report, and no doubt I will be talking about this at later dates. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Item 4.2.6, reports on matters discussed at councillor briefing sessions and pre-council meetings. Moved by Deputy Mayor Tan. Second by Councillor Dan. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? There is no opposition. I declare the motion carried. Item 4.2.7, list of registered correspondence to Mayor and Councillors. Moved by Councillor Formoso. Second by Councillor Trung. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? There is no opposition. I declare the motion carried. Item 5, notice of motion 5.1, notice of motion number 7, direct election of the Mayor and Deputy Mayor by Dandenong Community. Moved by Councillor Garrard. Second by Councillor Doe. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? Councillor O'Reilly in opposition. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. I put this notice of motion up because I think it's a very important discussion that we should have. The notice of motion asks for a pathway to outline transitioning to community-elected mayor and deputy mayor model. Having the community elect a mayor enhances accountability by ensuring that the leaders are directly answerable to the community that they serve. It increases transparency, strengthens the legitimacy of leadership, and fosters much greater public engagement. This ensures that the leadership reflects the community's priorities and concerns. By directly electing the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, the Council can build stronger trust and ensure more responsive governance and that prioritises the needs and the desires of the community and would position our Council as a leader in building responsive democratic representation. It is a fact that for the last decades we have had only Labor mayors and deputy mayors, with one exception. That does not reflect the voting patterns or the desires of our community. What we want is where the community is able to make a direct vote or a model which might be a 50% community or 50% councillor-led, so that the community can be spoken directly to in the pitch that the mayors make in their bid to be the mayor, and the community can be the ones to decide who reflects our community, and we will not get the repeat pattern that we've seen over the years of the same mayors and the same deputy mayors being elected time and time again. This does not allow for new leadership. It does not allow for more diverse leadership, and I think it holds our council and our community back. So I strongly urge my fellow councillors to enter into this really healthy process where we start to explore and have the discussion around moving towards a community-inclusive process. This is just the start of the conversation. In New South Wales in the early 1990s, they asked the minister to make a change in the Act to allow councils to choose to elect their mayors, and this report will explore the option of how we transition to that. My understanding is that the community will vote, there'll be a plebiscite, and if there is an overwhelming majority who support the idea of the community electing the mayor, then we will move to a process where we advocate to the minister for a change in the Act. I think that this is only going to build the trust with our community. It's only going to build increase transparency, and I think it's a much healthier and it will deliver a much more vibrant and transparent council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrow. Councillor Doe. Councillor Doe.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Echoing what Councillor Garrett has said, electing mayors and deputy mayors separately does ensure that both positions are held more directly accountable to the electorate rather than being appointed by essentially what is a small group or a small voting bloc. And this allows our mayors and deputy mayors to be held directly accountable and allows for transparency and appropriate representation. It allows us to have a system of checks and balances, and as Councillor Garrett mentioned, prevents the concentration of power. It is pretty much an open secret that if you are not a Labor member, you will not be a mayor or deputy mayor in the city of Greater Dandenong, and that is what I've been, I get told that by residents, and it's almost sort of a joke. And so while I understand that there is a statement that we elect the best person for the role and that person just happens to be a Labor member, I do question that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doe. In opposition, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. I've understood what was put forward. I'll just address a couple of points because there were some new ideas I believe I heard on it. I can oppose this on two grounds, both technically and the substantive issue. Technically, a direct election of the mayor is not enabled under the current Local Government Act. That is the law. The government explicitly states in the Local Government Act that councillors elect the mayor and deputy mayor. So that's quite a bit of a roadblock to any such proposition that is being proposed in the motion, Mayor. In other words, it's not allowed under law. And, you know, Councillor Garrard says that this will provide a pathway. I really believe that what it will provide is more like a rabbit hole where you just spend ages tunnelling and burrowing down, and you end up nowhere. Myself and other councillors were at a convention this weekend where we heard the Minister's address, and there was no mention of this whatsoever. What was mentioned was things like rate capping and council behaviour. So it's not on the agenda of the Minister, and therefore I doubt it will rise to the top of the priorities of the Minister. So that's the technical point, is that it's not enabled. Going to the substantive issue as far as the merits of the proposition, the Mayor is the leader of the decision-making body, and that being us as councillors. Potentially a publicly elected Mayor may not have the support of the councillors, which is critical, Mayor, in that the Mayor is the chair and the leader of the group of councillors. And we can look at what happens when the Mayor does not have the support of councillors in historic cases such as the Geelong Council and currently Whittlesea Council. So do we want to visit that sort of chaos on this council, Mayor, where councillors don't have, the Mayor does not have the support of the council? So for both technical and the substantive or meritorious reasons, Mayor, I oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Further speakers? Councillor Dunn.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And I think I broadly agree with Councillor O'Reilly's points on the substantiveness of the measure. I can go into an academic debate about what the best system of governing is, but we don't have all night for that. But I would just quickly want to make the point that I really disagree with the language that was used in the notice of motion as well. Firstly, the preamble saying that directly electing the Mayor would somehow increase representation. Firstly, without actually really defining what that means, and secondly, any evidence to back that up. And I suspect that, unfortunately, the motivation behind this is more to do with a personal grudge and a projection of personal grievances rather than legitimate criticisms for meaningful reform. And I think this is really only backed up by previous comments made publicly. Now, look, I'm going to stand here right now and say something that might be deemed as quite unpopular. But I think, firstly, provided that you always put your community first, political parties absolutely have an important role in our democracy. And there is nothing wrong at all with embracing your views and values through membership and affiliation. Now, I'm a member of the Labor Party. That's a part of my identity that I am very proud of and I have no shame in at all. And that's also one avenue that I have chosen to practice my views and my values. And fortunately, that's led me to this chamber. Firstly, my residents know about this. It's on every single leaflet that I've put out in their letterboxes. My residents know that I'm a member of the Labor Party, and guess what? They voted for me to represent them. In fact, they did it twice, actually. So that's the representation that my constituents have chosen. Now, everyone on this council here, I think, regardless of their different views and opinions that we might have, were elected by our respective communities to represent them. That's their right, and that's something that we all, of course, respect. Now, unfortunately, the message of this notice of motion implies that my residents don't know what they're doing, that they don't know what they're voting for, and that we somehow know better than them on what's important and best for their own lives. I think that's an incredibly patronising way to treat the people that we are meant to represent. I just wanted to make that point, but look, overall, I am open-minded about ways that we can look to improve governance. But unfortunately, I'm just not convinced at all that this is a worthwhile project to pursue, given that council resources are already stretched and that our residents want us to stop talking about ourselves and actually get on with actually doing the work that matters to them. And so I'll be voting no on this notice of motion, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Trung, you go.
Thanks, Mayor. When I read this motion,
where the motion, I think some question like, because of that we have a 1 year term or 2 year term for mayor or deputy mayor. That means, every years or every 2 years, the resident go to vote for mayor or deputy mayor or deputy mayor. Do you know that 24 have a council election? This year is a federal election. Next year state election. And now the council, I have to ask the resident come to vote for the mayor and deputy mayor every year or every 2 years. I think that's very, very boring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trung. Further speakers, Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to add a little bit. I agree and disagree with this notice of motion. There are some items some parts of it that I think are probably not practical, like Councillor Trung just mentioned, that, going through the election every year. However, to say that the political parties don't play a major role was only witnessed by all of us in the chamber last year, where Councillor Angela Long has publicly declared that she was stopped by the Labor Party power brokers from running to be a deputy mayor last year. And that is not only undemocratic, that is just borderline criminal, I would say, because she stood there right in front of us and said that she was stopped and she was made not to put her hand up for a deputy mayor. Now, if the Labor Party or Liberal Party or Greens Party or Legalised Cannabis Party can direct their members not to stand for a position of a mayor or deputy mayor under the instructions of high above, well, that is undemocratic to begin with. So I think we need to look at and explore possible options, maybe not this notice of motion in its entirety, because electing a mayor every year might be proven to be difficult in essence. How do we actually come about it? But to say that political parties should have such influence that the residents or the councillors can't even have a choice, and to say it out loud here, I have heard on more than one occasion that no Labor Party member can vote for someone who's not a member of the Labor Party, otherwise they get kicked out. The basic example of that is when Maria Sampi, member of the Labor Party, quite a few years ago, has voted for John Kelly and got kicked out of the Labor Party. Now, if that is not undemocratic, I don't know what is. So I'm saying some parts of this might not be practical. However, other parts need to definitely be looked at and find out what is the best way to part, because all of a sudden we're talking, with no disrespect to Councillor Dan, wasting resources. Whenever we get to transparency and openness, there's no resources. So I find it a bit amusing that there's always a roadblock when we need to get to the bottom of the problem and find out what's the best way forward. Let's just sweep it under the carpet. Let's just pick the first ones who was offered, because it's too hard to look for something else, or the truth is just too far away. So I'd say that I will be supporting this. I know that there's some tweaks that probably could be applied to this particular notice of motion, but the idea, the general idea of what it is quite good. And the biggest remark all of my residents have, or the biggest complaint that all of my residents that I've spoken to have, is why isn't the mayor picked from different ward, different time? Because, again, no disrespect to you, Mayor, you've been mayor 6 times. The residents of Dandenong North or the residents of Yarraman or Noble, they don't get a chance to have a mayor. Now, I'm not saying it's not because you're not worthy of it, far from it. I'm saying that they do think that it should be divided up and it shouldn't be influenced by political parties, whether that be Labor, Liberal or Greens or whoever, to the point where certain members of certain party cannot vote for anyone else. And I think that's been stated and it's been said more than one time in this chamber, and it's echoed by the residents outside this chamber on more than one occasion. So I will be supporting this notice of motion. I understand there might be tweaks that need to be applied, but in general I think it's a good way forward. If nothing else, if we explore and proven to be not right, well, yes, thank you. If it's proven that it's not practical, whatever, that's absolutely fine. But we shouldn't hide away and stop the healthy democratic debate just because we don't have an idea. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Further, Deputy Mayor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm rising to speak against the motion. Obviously, that's part of the Local Government Act 2020, or even before the Act 2020, that councillors is electing the mayor and deputy mayors. And not just that, you talk about majority, Labor or Green or Liberal, but the majority, you need to get at least absolute majority to win. So obviously, you need to at least to get 6 out of the 11. So it doesn't matter, like, if you talk about, like, give you an example at the moment. So in Kingston Council, minority is Labor at the moment, but the mayor is Labor. So you can't say, the majority of Labor will get elected mayor every year. That's incorrect. I just want to speak about why is the risk for public to vote for mayor and deputy mayor. So firstly, We know that this act didn't change because obviously out of 79 council, except for the Melbourne Council, which has got different geography, structure to us, which is resident elected the Lord Mayor and Deputy Mayor. That's a separate process. But the other 78 council, it's never changed in, even the minister doesn't looking to change about the process. So just to give you an understanding of why there's a risk involved with public voting for mayor, deputy mayor. One is to do with potential for popularism. So that means direct elections can sometimes favour the candidate who are more popular. So that means rather than those who are the most qualified and experienced. So this can lead to an election of the leaders who are popular in a short term. So that means not thinking about the over term of planning in government, in the governance. 2, risk of abuse of power. So directly elect mayor and deputy mayor may more concentrated power, so which can sometimes lead to abuse of authority. So without proper checks and balance, this can result in corruption and misuse of conduct. 3, increase of political polarization. So that means direct elections can intensely political divide the community. So as a candidate maybe adopt more extreme positions to mobilize their base. So this can also be harder to achieve consent and effective governance. 4 is about high cost, campaign costs. So running a direct election campaign can be expensive, as you know. So we may limit, like a lot of pool of candidates will be running because they don't have any, significant finance or budget backing their campaign. So this can reduce the adversity of candidate and potentially exclude those who might want to be represented for the community. 5 is about complexity and voter fatigue. Can I get an extension?
Yeah, you got 1 more minute.
Okay. So voters find it really challenging in terms of voting to make informed decisions. So about multiple candidates for different positions. So leading to vote fatigue. So that means you got lower participation rate. So this can undermine the democratic process and result less representative outcome. And the last risk has to do with security threat. So with public elections can be vulnerable for security threats, so such as cyber interference, disinformation campaigns, and political violence. This threat can also undermine integrity and election process that erode public trust as well. So for all that, I vote against this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tan. Is there any further speakers? You already spoke, Councillor Trung. You've already had your turn. You can only do it once, sorry. Any further speakers that haven't spoken? If no, right to reply, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess, it makes sense that Councillor Riley, Dan and our Deputy Mayor would not back this motion, because if the status quo is working for you, why would you want to change that? So I understand that you would not be great fans of change, but let's talk about the community. And I also want to address Councillor O'Reilly's point, which is that we have 2 cases now where the mayors do not have the confidence of councillors. They were elected by councillors. Whittlesea.
Sorry, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor, can you please?
So my
Garrard,
point being that you can have unpopular mayors in many different systems, and the report calls for an exploration of the different models, and it may be a 50-50. It may be a 50 councillor or a 50% community. What this report is calling for is to explore those options and to explore a pathway to make this happen. What would be very interesting, though, is the plebiscite to see how much the community actually would like to move this model, rather than the councillors here, for whom this model has worked pretty well. When you look at the probability, we've had 3 councillors which have not been Labor over the years and yet never risen to the surface, never been mayors, other than John Kelly. So I think that maybe we need to really look at the community needs. We need to really look at whether we're getting fresh leadership, whether we're getting a change in leadership, whether the leadership is responsive to the needs of the community. And Councillor Dan's point about whether there's evidence, there's a tremendous amount of evidence to support. I'm very happy to provide you with those. Okay. And also your objection, we heard objections around there's never enough money, there's not enough time. We've heard all these objections, but you don't even know. You haven't even got an estimation of the cost. And in fact, this report is not talking about costs, it's talking about models. It's talking about the models that have worked in other places. And yet we have an extreme reluctance by our fellow councillors to even explore the model, even open the conversation. But in New South Wales, this works incredibly well. If we just look above the border, I know we've got a parochial worldview, but if we just look above the border, you'll see that there are many councils selecting this, and it's extremely successful. And it's not breaking the bank, and it's not led to misinformation. The world hasn't ended. And what they have found, the evidence, and I'm very happy to provide the evaluation reports, is that we find that the mayors that are elected are very diverse, that there is a diversity of leadership, that leadership does directly reflect the wants and needs of the community. So I think it's a good conversation to have. I think it's a good start. And I think that anyone that really is interested in democracy and a council that reflects the needs of the community will back this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. All those in favour of the notice of motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Doe, Councillor Garrard and Councillor Milkovich. All those against, Councillor Yim, Councillor Formoso, Deputy Mayor Tan, Councillor Mehdi, Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung and Councillor Dan. The notice of motion is lost 3-7. We'll move on to the next item, councillors. 5.2, notice of motion number 8, efficient management of briefing meeting agendas. Moved by Councillor Garrard, second by Councillor Doe. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? Councillor O'Reilly in opposition. Councillor Garrard, you have 5 minutes.
Could I just ask a question? I believe there was going to be an alternate put up. Is that not correct? Is that not happening?
No alternate? No.
Okay. So this notice of motion really is around having a manageable workload. In recent times, we have found that as councillors, we have been given a very odious workload, which has meant that we are having meetings going long into the night, and this is the alternate meeting. And that does not necessarily make for good decision-making when we are sitting there at 10:30 at night, still grappling with issues. And in recent times, when the agenda has been run to time, we have not been given the opportunity to ask questions, to have discussions, and all of this does not augur well for the best decisions to be made in the interests of our community. So this notice of motion really is a plea for the officers to consider the time restrictions and the amount of time required to make responsible and considered decisions. Under the Act, we are required to ask for all the information we need to make an informed decision, and we are to be given the opportunity to ask appropriate questions. I consider that the workload we have been given recently does not allow that, and it does not therefore lead to good decision making. So this is a plea for officers to more fairly consider the workload of councillors and in the interests of good decision making.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Seconder, Councillor Doe.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. I will say I'm a little bit disappointed that alternate did not get through, because I do believe that the wording was more appropriate. Yeah, I would have backed that alternate as well. And I don't know if I can move that as an alternate. But I do agree as a new councillor, especially I like to say that I'm very privileged to be able to be a councillor, but at the same time it is a little bit difficult especially when the meetings or the councillor briefing sessions are being moved earlier and earlier. It is difficult to also get through all that material, and if we could explore putting those agendas in that appropriate urgency. It's a difficult ask for a lot of the councillors to be here quite late, and also for the executives themselves, because they do have their normal working day. We all have our normal working days, and we come here afterwards. And I definitely think that we need to find a solution to this. So in order to be effective councillors, we need to make sure that we are actually given the time and scope to be able to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doe. In opposition, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Councillor Doe wants a solution to it. Well, I'm happy to provide the solution, Councillor Doe. This motion is quite unique in my experience, because I've never seen a notice of motion moved for the purposes of making a plea, Mayor. When I read this notice of motion, I just saw it was a list of assertions, opinions, ideas with little defined outcomes. And that's not what we use notices of motion for good reason, Mayor. Quite a lot of the things that Councillor Garrard or the concerns and that Councillor Garrard and Councillor Doe raised, I'm happy to acknowledge and Council can particularly work through, but moving this notice or this notice of motion being approved by Council is not the most effective way to do it. What I suggest we do, Mayor, as we have done in the past, is that if councillors want different conventions or different parameters set around councillor briefings, etc., that we have a councillor-only meeting with the CEO who sets the agenda, and we can work through all of those issues, similar to how we have done in the past. And when we do that, then I think that will provide the solution that Councillor Doe and Councillor Garrard are looking for. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Any further speakers? There's
Thanks.
no... Councillor Formosa.
Thank you very much. Look, Mayor, I agree with a lot of what Councillor O'Reilly had to say, in particular the opportunity that we've all been given time and time again to meet with officers, directors, CEO. That's always been a possibility. Also, working full-time myself, an SES volunteer, my role here as a councillor and, of course, primary school-aged children, I find this to be a great privilege and an honour to work for my community. So perhaps if councillors were a little bit more focused on the best interest of the actual rather than moonlighting for maybe federal elections and focused on the actual work.
Point of order, Mayor. Councillor Formosa.
I'm just making
Councillor Garrard.
Relevance.
Please stick to the debate.
Thanks, Mayor. I think it is absolutely relevant because we're talking about not having enough time to...
Point of order. I understood that you, my point of order, you accepted and...
Yeah. Please stick to the debate,
Councillor okay. Well, I'll use an example of funny that Councillor Garrard would call out on this. She sent an email saying how that there's too much work. We're working late into the night. It's putting a strain of all of us who work and she thinks that the amount of items that are being put in the agendas need to be reviewed. Now, last time I checked, we employed the CEO and asked her to tidy up what was going on in-house. That obviously takes time, that takes effort, time and effort that I'm willing to put and sacrifice into this role as a councillor, because that's what we were elected to do. I find it quite funny that a councillor is complaining about the level of work that we're being given. So I would just like to say that I absolutely will be opposing this notice of motion. And again, we've also got the hybrid option. Any councillor under the Act has the opportunity to work under the hybrid model, one that many of councillors from neighbouring councils use pretty much every single meeting. There's some councillors that don't even come into chambers. So all of these options are available to us, and perhaps if some councillors are finding the workload a little bit too much, perhaps they shouldn't be councillors. So thanks for that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Formosa. Any further speakers, councillors?
Just final
Deputy
one.
Mayor
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify with the Governor as well. I think regarding to this, it is the Mayor's role who advised the CEO to set the agenda questions, the same as the CBS question or agenda on the CBS. So obviously, I don't think that's to do with any officer role to do this set of agenda.
Ms. Wetherill?
It's a joint role, but certainly the Mayor and I can have further conversations, and the Mayor and I meet regularly, so we're more than happy to take on board the feedback that's been provided and to amend the agendas accordingly.
Thank you, Ms. Wetherill. Any further speakers? If there's no further speakers, a right of reply. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. If our fellow councillors are not interested in good decision making, if they're not interested in allowing councillors to be able to ask relevant questions, to ask for relevant information, to be given due time.
Point of order, Mayor.
Please sit down, Councillor Garrard. Point of order.
What is she referring to? What's the councillor referring to in not wanting to ask questions? Everybody's given ample opportunities to ask questions, so I'd like that to be taken off the record,
Thank you, Councillor
please.
Formosa. Councillor Garrard, I can clarify. We have always had opportunity to ask councillors, so please refrain.
In fact, Mayor, 2 meetings
Point
ago,
of order,
we ran the
that
agenda.
is not correct. Councillor Formosa was incorrect, because last CBS and the one previous to that, yourself was presiding, and we were told that we will keep the questions to 1 or 2 because of the length of this thing, length of the agenda that we had on that particular night, and that we did not engage in lengthy conversations, and you were the ones that actually said those words. We will keep the questions to 1 or 2 at most, for 1 or 2 councillors. Now, if that's not limiting the amount of information that we receive as councillors, then I don't know what is. So I'd like a clarification.
Thank you,
on that.
Councillor Milkovich, and I can clarify, yes, we did have a huge agenda that meeting, and we did have questions to a minimum, but we did also have the opportunity that if people wanted to further up, ask questions, they had the opportunity to send emails. So no questions were unanswered. So please continue, Councillor Garrard.
I think my point was just proven. We were told to send out questions in email. So all this notice of motion is about looking at ways that we can make sure that all councillors have appropriate amount of time to consider all the material, and that we are not rushed, and that we are not told that we can't ask questions, and that we are given the space and the time to fully consider the motions in front of us that have tremendous impact to our community. We have around a $200 million budget, which is extremely important to consider. And so, to the point of why we haven't just talked to our mayor or our CEO, if that had worked, I wouldn't be putting up this notice of motion. This is around good work practice, good decision-making practice, and I think that anyone that is particularly interested in supporting an environment where good decisions are being made in an environment where we do have access to the information and the time required to consider them will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. All those in favour of the notice of motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Garrard, Councillor Doe, Councillor Milkovich. All those against, Councillor Yim, Councillor Formosa, Deputy Mayor Tan, Mayor Mehmeti, Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung, Councillor Dunn. The notice of motion is lost 3-7. Item 6, councillors, reports from councillors, delegate members and councillor questions. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just my first question tonight is just in relation to Noble Park Tennis Club. I was aware that their toilet facilities, there was some trouble there with accessibility and maintenance. Can I just ask if there's been
Miss Gillies?
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Dan, I'll have to take that one and maybe address with you specifically. I'm not familiar with the specific question.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Councillor Dan?
That's it. Yeah, no worries. I'm happy to forward that on. It must have gotten lost somewhere in my inbox. That's okay. And just one other thing. I've met with a trader on Ian Street recently. Just as a reminder, that's the little strip of shops next to Noble Park Station, adjacent to Heatherton Road. Just to discuss a few issues along that strip and how we can continue to improve that precinct following some recent works in recent years to revitalise it. And I know, given our discussions on placemaking recently, that's something that is, of course, of interest to many people here tonight. But one particular issue that just needs to be addressed quickly includes the laneway on the western side of the Ian Street shops. So I've been informed that there are some safety concerns regarding that, including allegations of drug dealing and other antisocial behaviour in the evenings. One key factor to that is the issue of lack of lighting. And so one of the proposals that was put forward was that because it's so close to the train station and that there are PSOs guarding around there in the evenings, just wanted to ask if it's possible for council to maybe get in touch with the relevant authorities and ask if it's something that our PSOs can also help to patrol in the evenings as well. Is that something that council can do?
Ms Gillies, PSOs, if we can contact them.
Yeah, certainly we can look into that, Councillor Dan, and make contact, do a bit of advocacy around it.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm happy to follow up with further information as well. And the other thing I just wanted to raise includes the pavement of the laneway itself as well. There's a bit of wear and tear there. It's quite complex given that it's actually quite hard to indicate which part of the laneway belongs to council land and which is private property. And as a result of that, there has been some parking problems along that laneway as well. Sometimes cars who are trying to park on the private part of the land infringes onto the council pavement, and as a result, sometimes it's a bit difficult for the traders to drive in and out as well. It might be a bit easier with some visuals, but can I just ask if that gets followed up? And
Mr. Manny Vasagasov.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, definitely. I'll get our traffic engineers to review that. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Just got one question tonight. I've had a few calls myself from the residents, and also I'm seeing Facebook posts which are more prevalent lately regarding the complaints of residents about barking dogs and, in the neighbourhood or, just on the other side of the fence. Could the council maybe run like an online, information campaign through Facebook or something just to tell the residents who they can refer to, just in case that, they don't contact the council, there's a language barrier of that sort or whatever, who they can sort of refer the complaint to, because they seem to be popping more and more, and people just sort of saying, well, where do I go, what do I do, who do I talk to? They're not really quite well informed. So if we can maybe just send some information on Facebook or any other electronic media just to let them know which course of action they can undertake for those sort of complaints.
Ms Gillies.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Absolutely, we can. And we're also going to have some information stands at some upcoming events to talk about specific animal management and how people can best respond in those situations. One of the biggest things that we see, though, when we do receive complaints is that people don't follow through in terms of the noise diaries, which are required as evidence for us to actually be able to progress anything further than an informal conversation. So we certainly can do that, and I really encourage residents to understand that can be frustrating, but it's a really key part of the process in relation to animals and noise.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Trung.
Thanks, Mayor. Last week I attended with Mr. Tak Ming Heng, the MP of Clarina, to at the Alex Wiki Reserve for the what you say, and the people come over there to make some suggestion, something like that, to change our plan in Sunday South. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chung. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing to report. Myself, Councillor Doe, Councillor Yim and Councillor Lay attended the MAV Victorian Convention of Councillors this weekend. Found it particularly informative. We had the scheduled sessions where we learnt quite a lot about governance, had an address for the Minister, and also the other benefit of conferences is talking with people from other councils and councillors from other councils and comparing notes. So myself and the other participants that I just mentioned are currently compiling a comprehensive report that we will submit to council for public put in the minutes or something. We'll submit that in due course. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Deputy Mayor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. As usual, it's been really busy the last 2 weeks, so I'll start with my report first. On the 12th of March, I attended the Greater South East Melbourne meeting, so with the Minister Colin Brooks, MP Minister for Industry and Advanced Manufacturing and Minister for Creative Industry, alongside with the Mayor of Casey, Councillor Stephen Kuhlman, JP Greater South East Melbourne Independent Director and Chair Simon McClooney, AO and Damien Magnus, the GSM Secretary, and our Executive Manager, Strategic Growth and Advocacy, Marjan Hajari, mainly to discuss about some of the challenges that we have in terms of GSM and the future plan for manufacturing investment, mainly in the Southeast region. So a bit of the background for GSM. So GSM advocates for jobs, infrastructure, investments, liabilities, sustainability and well-being for the Southeast and everyone who live in the and work in the region. So I think right now we've got at least 1.5 million people living in the region, 83,000 businesses, 500,000 jobs, and generate around 85 billion of the gross regional products. So it's great to see the Minister interested in the future plan as well. On the 13th of March, I attended the Victoria Police meeting with Kandinia and Casey Great Dandenong Council, CEO Mayors, to discuss about our challenges and opportunities to strengthen our relationship with VicPol for the three councils. 14th of March, I attended the launch of the Grace International branch in Dandenong, so a bit of background about the Grace International. They provide migrations and education services to the international students. At the moment, they have 11 different, globally 11 countries now. So far around Australia too. So country in Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Dubai, Kenya, Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, and in Australia. On the 15th of March, I attended the Day Zero Cricket for Climate project launch. It is in a collaboration with Dandenong Cricket Club, also Cricket Climate Program and Council. So we are proud to stand alongside them to support them in this green power station. They're going to have all solar panels and then 2 huge batteries. So costed around, I think, $100,000 for that project. So this project is a prime example of how our community can benefit from being green. So the club could save up at least $10,000 each year on electricity bill. And so the investment from the grids will also spend to Honour Women's sports group and other important things as well. And on the 18th, I attended the staff Mayoral event, so just to pay our condolences to families and friends, those departed colleagues who are no longer here with us. So it was a time to reflect and share memories, acknowledge those who are meant so much to us at work. 19th of March, I attended the Harmony Week events hosted by the Interfaith Network. So it was also great to see with Councillor Garrard as well. So it's great to hear speeches, the keynote speaker from Jana Farabal. She's the Deputy CEO, Head of Domestic Change at Asylum Seekers Resource Centre. They currently helping at least 7,000 people seeking asylum. So mainly with basic needs like food, medicines, and helping with processing their applications. As you know, some of the people that have been locked up in detention up to like 12 years. So it's great to see if any policy change with the process. Also great to hear from our community panels, and also got a certificate here for you, Mayor. This has been signed by everyone, so I'm going to send that to you.
Thank you very much. Councillor O'Reilly will take a photo.
Ready? 1, 2. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And on the 21st of March, I attended the launch of the exhibition, which is hosted by the Noble Park Community Centre. I Do What They Think I Do by Vern Arvis Crustin. So congratulations to Vern. Thanks for his work as well, sharing his thought-provoking work with us. He's a very busy creative artist who currently working on many different projects, so including writing narrative poems, a short format, story format, compelling collection of mini poems, and developing a website for caption craft. Last events I attended to over the weekend is the Polari annual stage show. A huge event each year, so thousands of people turn up came and enjoyed the Multicultural Talent Fest. So it's an annual celebration that Polari Victoria organisation organises every year. So just to provide a platform for the community members and Indian artists to showcase their talents. And on a night they've raised around 3,000 and to the Monash Health. So that's all my events. Just one question follow up. We'll send this to Sanjay as well. So just regarding to Noble Park resident Mayor, through you, through the relevant officers, just regarding to drainage issues. So that's around 6 units. Looking to get in touch with our officer to help provide some cost-effective. They're doing like a huge drainage. Need to get a permit as well from council and to get the work done. So if we can get a follow-up from our officer to contact her back and then get the process moving, that'd be great. Thanks.
Mr. Manivasagasavam.
Through email, happy to get the staff to contact the resident and then we can follow that up. Thank you.
That's all from me.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tan. Councillor Formoso.
Thanks, Mayor. Attended many iftar dinners these last 2 weeks, and can I say that during Ramadan is probably the time where I put on about 5 kilos. So a huge thank you to all of our community that's invited me to many of those iftar dinners with the delicious food and celebrating the holy month of Ramadan with our community. So one in particular of significance was the an iftar dinner, but also the opening of Afghan Mama's restaurant at 301 to 303 Lonsdale Street, which is just amazing, delicious food, wonderful family. And I remember many years ago, maybe you do, Mayor, that was a McDonald's restaurant all those moons ago. So the fact that we've replaced it with such a wonderful family restaurant is really quite great to see, and look forward to actually taking my children to this restaurant, not the one previously. So I wish them all of the best of luck with this opening, and it's just beautiful decor, beautiful food, and can seat probably about up to 200 people. So for anyone that has any events coming up, I highly recommend going to Afghan Mama's restaurant. Attended the monthly SEL board meeting, and we discussed the exciting news, Mayor, about the DWC project starting in the coming weeks. So that was extremely good to discuss that with the board. Obviously, everyone's really excited about this wellbeing centre finally being built and opening the doors to our community that deserve this state-of-the-art facility. I also, speaking of all things sport, as usual, I met with a local resident today who actually had a public question last council meeting. Siduni asked about lighting at Ross Reserve and wanting to start some sort of running club for young women in particular. Obviously, due to the lack of lighting in our municipality and, of course, the safety concerns that have been flagged over the last few years, Siduni was really interested in how we would get the lights on at night so that they can run this running club. And I thought, wow, what a fantastic idea. What a great way to get moving and get obviously aligning with our Make Your Move policy. So I just wanted to know how we could make that happen as quickly as possible to ensure that we can get people moving, and in particular this running group, which I will probably join by the sounds of it, because I'm really keen to use this new athletics track at Ross Reserve. So if the appropriate director could respond, please, Mayor.
Ms Gillies.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thanks very much, Councillor Formoso, for bringing that one up. Certainly we appreciated Siduni's question last fortnight. As we mentioned then, we're absolutely aware of the program. We're just working through the operational impacts because there is a cost. We are, from a technical perspective, the programmability of the lights, that was a new word for me, and also the impact on the neighbouring residents. We just do need to do a little bit of consultation because obviously having bright lights of an evening, we want to make sure that we've done that bit of consultation. That said, we completely agree it's well and truly in line with our Make Your Move strategy, and I'm happy to provide you an update in the coming week with what a timeline looks like for that.
That would be really great. And I'm guessing we'd have to abide by lighting rules and regulations. So I think, yeah, the quicker we can get that moving, the quicker we can get people making their moves. So thank you, Ms Gillies, for that. And thank you to Siduni for meeting with me and being so passionate about our community, and in particular getting women fit and healthy, which I love to see. Mayor, I also wanted to mention with a really heavy heart the horrible nightclub fire that took place on the 16th of March in Kochani, North Macedonia. This killed 59 people, injured 196. I think it was an avoidable fire. It's absolute tragedy, and our prayers are with everyone affected by this devastating event. And I also send my deepest condolences to our Macedonian community here in City of Greater Dandenong and, of course, globally. I'm sure that someone would know someone that was affected by this fire, just by the amount of people that were so involved in this. And I note that Council was going to light up the Drum Theatre over the weekend in Macedonian colours to pay our respects, and you and I both walked down to the Drum Theatre and found that that didn't actually happen. So I was really hoping that we could make that happen in the coming weeks, perhaps this weekend. So if the appropriate director could maybe respond in regards to that, please.
Ms Gillies.
Through you, Mayor, and thanks very much, Councillor Formoso, for your question. Certainly our intention was that the drum would be illuminated Friday, Saturday and Sunday night. It was in fact illuminated on Friday night. However, there was a technical issue with the programming that meant it wasn't illuminated on Sunday night. So we're very sorry for that. Certainly we've looked at now what other nights, because we do have some other illuminations booked. So as soon as we have another gap in the illumination schedule, we'd be very happy to make up for those nights that weren't illuminated over the weekend.
Thank you, Ms Gillies.
Thanks, Ms Gillies. And if I could ask, Mayor, if we could possibly stand for a minute's silence to show our respect for the people of North Macedonia, who are obviously suffering immensely during this really tragic event, please.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all from me, ma'am.
Thank you, Councillor Formoso. And if I can just add that I was contacted by the Macedonian community to light up the drum theatre, and I thank Ms Gillies for doing that on Friday night. Unfortunately, there was a glitch on Saturday night, Sunday night, but hopefully we'll get it up for another 2 nights. And our thoughts and our prayers do go out to our Macedonian residents in Greater Dandenong, but throughout Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, and the world. Terrible circumstances. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Yim.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the last meeting, I attended the Day Zero event on Saturday the 15th with Deputy Mayor Sophie Tan at Shepley Oval. It was great to see how the Dandenong Cricket Club are taking measures to be more energy efficient and prepare for the changing climate. Last council meeting, I mentioned the kindness community. On Tuesday the 18th, I was able to volunteer with Danielle Ashley at the Hemming Skate Park with the kindness community. We were able to cater free meals to many homeless and disadvantaged people in the city of Greater Dandenong. The kindness community is an absolutely brilliant charity, and I applaud Danielle and the volunteers who are serving one of our more vulnerable community groups. I'll be doing my best to volunteer every Tuesday and encourage anyone else to volunteer or donate if they're able to. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Yim. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I just want to shout out to the South East Community Links who held a Bring Your Bill a day that attracted 300 residents and they were able to resolve over $500,000 worth of debt in the previous year and this year, which is remarkable, and it does show the level of financial stress our residents are under. My first question, Mayor, is regarding an article in the Star Journal on the 23rd of March where our acting CEO, along with some other councils, are pushing back against the introduction of the purple bin, the glass bin. My question is, when will councillors be informed or have input into the decision to push back on that? And as mentioned in the article, there's a high level of contamination of our general waste with glass. What is the current level of contamination, and what would be the projected gain in having the purple bin as opposed to a contaminated waste bin? Can we please have those figures?
Mr Manivasigasavan.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm going to answer this one. I certainly, in regards to Recycling Victoria, they have mandated that all councils throughout the state introduce the purple glass bins from the 1st of July 2027. And this council is committed, along with our other 78 other councils, to doing that. Greater Dandenong Council is not pushing back against the introduction of these bins. We're simply trying to seek additional information from the state government to better understand the costs and the benefits. Given it's an entirely new service, the exact cost to ratepayers is yet unknown, and while there is a current timeline in place to have the glass service rolled out, we're going to work towards that date. But we're just interested to understand the costs. A number of the councils have already undertaken the purple bins, and we need to, based on our current financial pressures, better understand that.
Thank you, Ms Wetherill. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you. My next question relates to the 7:30 report last Thursday regarding the removal of the council trading name from Thomas Street. The council spokesperson was unable to explain why the AFP and Home Affairs have been called into our city, or why the last council meeting was closed to the public. What impact does the council believe this response has had on public confidence in our commitment to openness and transparency?
Ms Hajari.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks to Councillor Garrett for your question. We had somehow similar question from public, and I'm happy to repeat part of that. I was interviewed by ABC for more than an hour, and what they aired was just a few moments of that. And their question was around the question around the closure of that was related to some kind of information that we had in hand at that time, which some from the police. So this information was not relevant to be aired for the public, considering the situation we had in our committee, and we didn't know which part will be aired for that. So that's what you saw in that show. It was just a few moments of 1 hour conversation, which I deliberately didn't want to disclose some of the information because of our community. In terms of the AFP and the police, the way that they put this report together was that it bring this perception that we invited the police to our public meeting. That was in my interview, I emphasized that our meetings was peaceful. We never had the police or AFP in that, and they were invited as a stakeholder as part of the peace talk that we had. But unfortunately, or with the nature of the media, the way that they put it together was probably provide this perception that we invited them to the council meeting, which was not true.
Thank you, Ms. Sajari. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you. Equally, councillors have never viewed that evidence also. My next question is around, whilst it is encouraging to see the council's commitment to local procurement in the DWC $108 million project, as called for by CEMAC, can you provide details on how the local procurement in this project will be measured, verified and reported to the public?
Mr. Manivasagasavan.
Through you, Mayor. City of Greater Dandenong's procurement policy emphasizes fairness, transparency and the promotion of local and social procurement. The Council works with contractors on local procurement on job creation and in all its contracts. So in relation to the Dandenong Wellbeing Centre, the contract was awarded at the last council meeting. We will work with the contractor on the details on local procurement and job creation in the coming months. Once the details are worked out, we'll measure and monitor the progress. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Manivasagasavan.
Just a point of clarification. Yeah, were measured, verified and reported included in that answer? I didn't.
Mr. Manivasagasavan.
So as I said, we'll measure and monitor the progress. How we report that one, I need to consider that one. How we report on all the other contracts. Once we know the details, we're happy to consider that.
Thank you, Mr. Manivasagasavan.
Thank you, Mayor. My last question is just how we're going, progressing, opening up our meetings to Facebook. What is the process currently being undertaken to decide that?
Mr. Guzman.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. We finalising our technical assessment. As I was informed, the two different media channels actually require different resolutions. So we're looking at a technical assessment for the cameras, ensuring that we do not degrade one for the other. So we're ensuring that that's actually happening. I'd like to think that over the next 2 weeks, I'll bring some good news to this council.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Doe.
So I just wanted to really, I know that Sean and, I know that Councillor Riley and Councillor Yim touched on the convention that we recently attended. I really just want to echo that it was an inaugural event of its type. It's the first time that we've had something like this, and it was absolutely an excellent opportunity as a first-time councillor, being able to connect from other councillors, different municipalities, as well as the workshops that were provided were extremely insightful, and I came away with many contacts and so much advice, so much guidance, and I would highly recommend attendance next time if it was to run again for all councillors. It was really quite an excellent event, and it was really amazing to see how many hands rose up when we did ask how many of the councillors there were first times, and so having that support, especially for first-time councillors, was fantastic. I also want to let my residents know as well that I have caught up with our Tim Richardson to raise issues regarding road safety, as well as community safety as well. So we are working on that together in a collaborative way, and I hopefully will have some more information in the coming weeks and months, and hopefully we can have good outcomes. Thank you. Thank you,
Councillor Doe. Some of the events I went to, I was had the pleasure of launching the AIM on Business Council Australia. It's a multicultural business people who are not only trying to do business in Victoria, Australia, but also around the world. So great to be able to be invited to that launch. Also attended the grand opening of Afghan Mums Restaurant in central Dandenong. Great family business. Fazul and Miriam Arconi with their children run that restaurant and are so inviting and so pleasant that I think once you meet this couple and their family, you just fall in love with them. But they have absolutely the best food, as Councillor Formosa said, and it's very inviting and fresh food and homemade cooking. So I strongly recommend people to visit the new restaurant, Afghan Mums Restaurant on Lonsdale Street. I also attended the Taha annual Ramadan Iftar dinner last night, which was a really nice evening where the Minister Gabriel Williams also attended as well, and it was great to hear and the feedback of their community. It was, I think, about 500 people in that room, so it was a great evening. Also, councillors, I'd like to bring to your attention the Ramadan Night Market, which is the first night market of this kind in Melbourne. You've probably heard of the Lakemba Night Market, which is extremely successful, and they have hundreds of thousands of people visit them over Ramadan. This is something that Victoria has never seen in this size. I guess the people who are running it is a Bright organisation, community organisation, who it's their first time running an event like this. It will be held in Harmony Square and also the surrounding area, Walker Street, Thomas Street. Lonsdale Street will be even overflown. So I think there will be many food vans, and also all our restaurants in central Dandenong will be full chock-a-block. So I urge you all to visit. If not tomorrow, you've got 9 nights to visit, and I think it's going to be a great event to bring not only the Muslim community but the multicultural community to come and share and experience an event like this. So well done to the organisers, and I look forward to helping in which way we possibly can and support them to grow this to become an annual event. So congratulations to the organisers. And that's all from me. Ms Weatherall, you've got some the questions that were tabled at the last council meeting.
Yes,
Thank
I do,
you very
Mr
much.
Mayor.
I appreciate that. Item 7, urgent business. If there's no urgent business, I'll move to item 8, close of business, 9:34 p.m. Thank you for your attendance and have a great evening.